right. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Modern Stoic
So,
podcast, where we delve into how Stoicism can be relevant to our personal development, decision making, how we stay resilient through trying times,
hmm,
and how we stay mindful in such a fast paced world. I'm your host, Anoop. Joined with me is my fellow Taurus King, Kofi.
hello, hello.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
All right, man. How you doing? How was your week?
My week's been good,
It's
broski.
been good.
It's been a good week.
Ah,
I can't complain. I'm just happy to finally be here. Finally in the studio
feels good.
recording for the first episode.
Shake that energy off. Come on, man.
Bro, it's been
Let's
it's
get it.
been it's been 4 years in the making of saying
Hmm.
I've been wanting to do a podcast. It's been a lot of meaningful conversations with a lot of people, and I'm
Okay,
kind of
okay.
now happy that we're able to bring this to a bigger stage.
Absolutely. Mm.
But
How you feeling? What are you looking forward to this week?
I mean, for this week, coming out of this week, first off, it's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hard work to
Talk to me.
working on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
We're kind of doing a lot of studying and researching. Beyond that, I'm actively interviewing for new careers and stuff like that. So it's a
Okay.
lot of good conversations happening. So a lot of positive traction. And
Mm.
beyond that, also crushing the workouts as usual.
Okay. I mean, yeah, you're looking jacked, man. Over the last year, I've been seeing you work out every day. You ran a half marathon. Come on, bro. You got to give yourself more props than that. You've
Hey
been
man.
doing more than looking for new employment. You've been grinding. What's
Yo,
up?
between the employment stuff, I'm a full-time athlete now,
Yeah,
basically. So
basically.
that's how we navigating
Basically.
that road.
Okay,
But
I
yeah,
like
bro,
that.
how's your week, man?
Oh, whew, my week has been very interesting. So maybe about 2 weeks ago, my job had a couple different changes. So they reorged and everything. So it kind of gave me a scare. A lot of people got laid off. So I thought I was actually one of them. But God is great. So it didn't happen to me. But I reached out to a couple people that got laid off because it's different when you work with someone every day and then in one day you don't work with anyone that you're working with on the team at all. So for perspective, it was about a team of five, and then now it's like a team of two, right? So they got cut out of my team. So workload increased, plus I'm alone. So it's really weird. I mean, obviously there's another person, but it got really weird for me. Um,
Loki,
uh,
Loki sounds like a breakup.
yeah, and it felt like a heartbreak. So like actually, like it was like going through the movements of grief. Like there's like
Yeah.
7 stages. So I don't even know what stage I'm in right now. It
But
can
you Loki got ghosted. Because it just the
it
drop of the
just
hammer, it just
dropped.
happened.
Bro, it's so crazy because on in certain like movies or TV shows I've seen, and they talk about layoffs, and you can't access your computer anymore. Like we looked on Slack and it said deactivated, so you can't even contact the person unless you know their number or you go on LinkedIn. So it was definitely weird, right? But what that put into my head was like, yo, you have to be in a spot where you can't be replaced or let go, right? You have to put your seed in the ground at whatever thing you're doing and make sure you're that go-to person, right? You're that subject matter expert, and they won't function without you, right? And that really put that perspective into my head right now, because it seems like the people that are left now are those people, but you have to always stay on game because you never know what could happen, right? So that was my week, a week of reflection, really, for me. But otherwise, it's been going great. I've been in the gym a lot more, and yeah, man, it's been good. And I'm really looking forward to. I was looking forward to this, right? We're here, first episode. Valentine's Day is coming up, so whew,
I
it's going.
mean
That's a very stressful time for guys. So, what you think about that?
it's a good segue though, because we're talking about Valentine's Day.
Hmm.
What, you wanna share how your current love life's going?
Oh yeah, of course. So currently I'm in a relationship, pretty new relationship. We've been together for 3 months now. And it's going good. I'm not gonna lie, like she's treating me very well, and I hope she can say the same thing about me. It's all like that puppy dog phase, and you guys are obsessed with each other. And everything's funny, everything is cute. So we're in that phase right now, and I don't see us lighting up anytime soon, right? It's been on a really good high. Um, and I can't speak too many bad things about where I've been in my love life, man. I'm enjoying it for real. Valentine's Day is coming up. I'm a sucker for love, bro. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys. We're doing everything. We're going to restaurant, everything under the moon or the sun, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
And yeah, we're gonna be doing everything. So how about
yeah.
you? Valentine's Day is coming. I mean, what's up? Talk
My
to me.
Valentine's Day?
Talk to me. How's your love life, brother?
Yo, my Valentine's Day, it's the same Valentine's Day I've had for a couple of years now. You'll catch me
Yeah.
at the gym, hitting arms, just out
Mm.
there. Anyone
Hey,
else feeling lonely might come up and chat to them.
okay. I
But,
mean, you left your baggage, now you're picking up different weights, what's going
Exactly,
on?
exactly. No, definitely. So I guess a
Yeah.
little bit of backstory of mine, I came
Mhm.
out of that recent, I guess we can call it a situationship where,
Mhm.
was definitely a lot of like couple tendencies, a lot of relationship energy there.
Right, right,
But
right.
at the end of the day, it was like a 4 month situationship. It just never got to that state of exclusivity.
Yeah.
And now we back at the board.
Okay. What's up though? Like tell us a little bit more. Like give us a bit more detail, like, your feelings, like how you feel. Cause I know sometimes you can get us into a situationship and it's like cool, smooth, and you're like, oh, I understand why it's over, but like, what's up? Tell me a bit more about how everything flowed and how you feeling.
I mean, so obviously when we first met, it was very good. We met back in like,
Mm.
what was it like November timeline, or we met back in September
Yeah.
timeline, we were chatting online and stuff like that. We met. So from there, we just started conversating and stuff like that. The vibes were good. And we started just going on dates, and like
Mm.
our dates were really well. And going into November, it was just, everything was lining up. Our first date, we crushed it. Second
Okay.
date, third date, everything was going well,
Wait,
and I was
wait.
like,
When you say you crushed it, what are you talking about?
what are we talking about? I mean, I plan things to the T. That's what I'm talking about. I remember there's just, there's certain things that
Oh, I was
girls will tell
my
you in
mind
convers
is in a different place, brother. I'm sorry.
Oh, brother. No, 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 chill, chill, not like that. But no, no, planning and things in certain detail,
Yeah, yeah,
remembering, like,
yeah.
certain things they might like or certain
Mhm.
things they wanted to try or do and, planning that and putting it into your dates, putting in
Okay.
that effort and showing it.
Yeah,
So, in terms of that, like, I'm a planner,
I
in my
feel that.
day-to-day life, I'm a project manager, so granted that life transitions into my personal life, so when it comes to planning dates or planning anything,
Yeah.
I go all out for it,
Okay.
so
I love it, boy. Okay, I like that. I like to
when
learn
Jake
that
talks
early.
CLB, that's us.
Yeah, the streets is not for me. I'm not gonna lie. The streets
Yeah.
is they're cool.
So with your situation though, how'd you know you were, like, catching feelings for this girl?
Oh,
Like, how'd you know?
so for me, I'm very picky about who I really entertain, and the thing about me, I give a lot, so I have to be very picky because the aspect of giving a lot or the action of giving a lot is draining if the person is not for you. You'll realize that I'm giving all these resources, I'm giving all this time, I'm a therapist, I'm a boyfriend, I'm doing all these things, right? So it's really taking it back and not wanting to drain your energy because once you start doing that and you move like that, eventually you'll look back like, damn, like, I wasted so much time, right? I gave this person this much energy. I gave this person so much laughter and joy, and I'm not receiving anything back, right? So you want to make sure it's on par. So when I knew I was in love with her, or like get into that stage, everything was clicking. It was like, oh, I didn't have to ask for this. In previous relationships, I would have to ask for certain things. I don't understand why you don't see that's not okay, right? That was a lot of the conversations. I'm starting with that, and for her, it was just like, okay, I see what you mean. Like, dead it. It's not a conversation. We don't have to go deep into that world because she already understands our principles are aligned, right? When we first started the relationship or we started dating, we talked about values and maybe like the second conversation, and that was big game changer. Like I've never really spoken to women that talk on that level and that deep level, want to get that deep in any stage of dating, really, right? It's a later thing when you're getting more serious, maybe like a 6 month down the line, right? Because you're having fun, you're not even thinking about being serious like that.
And this was
Well,
the
for
first
me,
date to clarify, right? Like, that you
yeah,
saw this
first
life?
date,
Like,
we're talking about values off rip. What are your principles? What are you looking for? And I mean that's a real grown up relationship, right? So I think this is more of my going into my manhood and actually looking for a long-term partner, maybe like a wife in
mhm,
that aspect. And I had that mindset like, oh, I'm looking for a wife.
yeah,
I'm gonna be someone's husband. So that was my mindset going in. So I think that translated and attracted the right energy.
mhm.
And it's the first time experiencing that. And I don't think it's gonna be another time that I'm gonna
I mean, I feel
express
like in
that.
general, both of us, we kinda date pretty intentionally, meaning that,
Yeah.
like, when we go into relationships, we don't just date the date. It's
Yeah.
we're going into to potentially wife her or
Yeah,
not, you
yeah, yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
So in terms of the questions that you're asking, we talking about values and stuff so early on to the date,
Mm.
it's like you're setting the precedence early that, "Hey, this is what I'm valuing into this relationship. This is how serious I'm taking it."
Yeah.
And to go back to that point, when you guys did share your values, were you guys all aligned on all the pillars, or were there a lot of still things you guys are conversating through?
So it's very interesting. Most of the pillars that you're speaking about, we aligned on, right?
Mhm.
So if we're saying there's 10 pillars, maybe 9 out of the 10.
Alright.
There was one that we had to kind of have a conversation about, but for the most part, we understand each other. We know what we want from a relationship,
Mhm.
right? And there's things that obviously are different about me that it's not the same for her, right? So certain aspects of how I move might be different, but we accept that, right? And that's all we ever ask for. It's like, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's like, accept it. If we were to have a family, if we were to integrate families, how would that look? So
Mhm.
we started that conversation early. I
Mhm.
know that might be a bit aggressive for some people, and like, oh, like that's too early to, you guys have been dating for 3 months. But I think if you start like that, you finish in a great spot, right? So, one of my coaches back in my day when I used to play ball, he said, you finish how you start. So if you play hard, you practice hard, that's how you're going to finish. You're going to be a great talent. You're going to be in great places. So I take that mindset and that kind of teaching and apply that to everything, right? And I mentioned before, if you grow your seed and you make sure you're someone that isn't really replaceable, like when I was talking about work,
Mhm.
that's your mindset every time you start something,
Mhm.
right? So you're aiming to be the best. If you go into a relationship, you're aiming to see how you and your partner, or the prospective partner, will be the best, right?
Mhm.
You're not going and saying, well, this person has this, this, and that. Obviously, there's some non-negotiables, right? But you have to be like, well, this is the person I love. This is the person I like, and I have to get used to being with that person. So even the things that may not look shiny or may not be the best, I have to understand, well, this is the person for me and
Mhm.
how you're going to get through life. Because that may be her superpower, but may not be yours. So it's like a puzzle piece. You guys connect together, and whatever you're strong in, you contribute to her life, and then vice versa. Whatever she's strong in, you will contribute. And the weaknesses or the things that may lack, you guys work on or teach each other.
Yeah. It's kinda like when you're out here dating and looking for your partner, you're not really seeking for that perfect partner. You're kind
Right.
of seeing the one that you can make that perfect bond with and that you can grow
Absolutely.
with to kind of become either equally yoked, if we wanna use a biblical
Yeah.
term, or in general, just balance each other out and
Mhm.
have those meaningful conversations that you can build on and work to get to that end goal of, being able to go through the trials and tribulations of life because life ain't perfect. We know it's a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah,
We see the
absolutely.
economy right now. There's a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of turmoil. Um, you tie that into then the stress that it leads to financial burden, and then you tie that into the stress of having to now take care of a whole person as well. Because we already said
Yeah,
we're some lovers. We're very nurturing, caring, providing.
absolutely.
So that's something that we always think about as
Yeah.
we navigate that relationship.
Right, you always wanna be at an equal and not more running ahead, right? It's
Hmm.
it's not a race, but, you wanna go at the same pace
No,
if
of course.
possible. So that it's a great segue into our next, subject or, question. Do you ever feel like you move too fast? Maybe in your last situationship or, like, in any relationship, really?
Um, so in prior relationships, I would say no, but in the most recent one, I would say asterisk maybe yes. And the reason why I
Asterisk.
say the reason why I say asterisk maybe yes, because nothing happened. We never got to that
I
stage.
feel like I just took an exam,
Yeah, hey man,
like, select all that apply.
yeah, yeah. All the above. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically one of those.
They all look
I
this
mean, at the end of the
that's
day,
funny.
like when you talk into the relationships and stuff like that, like I said, we dating people to date more intentionally in our partner and stuff like
Yeah, yeah,
that. So
yeah.
you start asking those questions, like you said, you
Absolutely.
talk about values, you talk about all these things.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it starts reaching the place or the area where you start talking a lot of hypotheticals or a lot of like our future and stuff. What do we
Right.
see for each other? What do
Mm,
we deem our life going within the next
right.
5 years? And when you start having those conversations, you start to really notice that it's nice talking about the hypotheticals. It's nice talking about
Absolutely.
like where you guys will land. But then you start to get, I guess,
Right.
fantasize about the potential, and you start then really marrying that idea instead of where you
Mm.
are now. And I guess
It's a mirage.
yeah, exactly, and
Yeah.
I think through that whole process, I started learning, maybe don't fall in love with the potential, fall in love with the pattern that you're seeing in terms of what you're seeing in front of you.
That it's funny you say that. I was actually talking to one of my friends, and during an interview process, um, they were saying all the right things, right? And they got hired, and the manager kind of maybe audited them. You said all these things, you said you could do this and that. So I think applying that to a relationship where that could end terribly, right? You give all these things up and you make it seem like you're the perfect type of person, or, you don't want to mess up anything. So you are more people pleasing, right? You're pleasing her in any aspect you want to do. And then it comes out that you're not that type of person, or she may not be that type of person she advertised to be, right? So it's really staying true to who you are at all times, and that's really cool.
And that's where it also gets tricky too when you start delving into, like, the whole concept of love bombing as, like, a
Mhm,
topic in itself, and that topic
mhm.
goes way more
Yeah.
clicks deeper, but in
Yeah.
terms of love bombing too, that's something that we face in our generation that when
Mm,
you start talking about potential, you start talking about where we're gonna go, but then beyond that, you start talking about, like, "Do I see you as a future partner to, like, a father to my kids? Can I
right.
see you
Mhm.
as, like, an
That's
aunt to
real.
my nephew? Can I
Right.
see all of this?" So then it starts becoming so, like, promising and you just
Yeah.
get attracted to that. Psychology standpoint too,
Yep.
we just crave love in general. So, like,
Absolutely.
going back to your situation actually about the whole layoff process,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you still loved your coworkers and all of that, and you loved
Absolutely.
the attention they gave you or
Yeah,
whatever,
the bond
the
outside of
bond of
work.
being a
Yeah.
great colleague. And one day that just stopped. And when that
Gone.
stopped, you just don't know how to act.
Yeah.
And like the same thing for me when I got on my recent situationship, we were talking so often for 4 months, like almost every day on the
Yeah.
phone or whatever.
It's big.
So once you lose that, you kind of seize up. You're just like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like I don't know how to navigate life right now. It's like I have
Absolutely.
to now recondition myself to being like, oh,
Yeah.
like I
You
don't
you were
have that
spoiled to
person.
the fact that she was there. Yeah.
Exactly. So now it's just reconditioning yourself to being, back on your own flow and being your
Absolutely.
own person again, which
It's
is
tough.
like such an interesting transition as well. And we've also seen it with our friends.
Mm.
Some people either use that energy to just motivate themselves and catapult themselves to a crazy
Yeah.
trajectory. This is when you see the guys in the gym. Maybe I'm one of them
Yeah.
too. We just
That
got the
and I was
hoodie
I was
on.
just about to say, like, when someone just got out of a relationship because they get bulk,
Bro,
they get
everybody at my gym's been clowning
it's
me recently because
yeah.
everyone at my gym, like some of the guys know my gym's very social.
Yeah.
They see me there bright and early every day. I got
Yeah.
the weighted vest on, I'm looking like G
Mhm.
Unit in there, and they're just like,
Not
yo,
the
this guy is fighting
The G
demons.
Unit vest. It's
Yo, these
that's
guys know
hilarious.
I'm in there. But I mean, in
Yeah.
general, I'm already like that as a person.
Yeah.
But if you have a little bit of extra juice now,
Mhm.
now it's like the trajectory
It's
is
just
going even further.
gone. Yeah. Wait, so question. I listen to 50 Cent, but you actually have the weighted vest? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
It's a
do you
weighted
listen
vest.
to 50 Cent while you have the weighted vest
Bro,
on?
many men wish death on me. Are you
Many
kidding me?
men
I'm
That's
on the
hilarious.
stairmaster just bumping it.
That's that's
Head bopping and all that. I'm in my groove.
that's hilarious. I think I've been in that same stage of working out because I didn't wanna kind of think of the past relationship or that it hurt kind of a little bit more too much than I thought it would, and I needed to have a vice, right? Some people might smoke weed. Some people might do other things, and maybe start reading. Like it, some people have progressive vices. Some people have, deteriorating vices, right? So a lot of the guys use the gym. I was that guy that used the gym, but in the gym, I thought a lot, right? So next question I have for you is, what's your most humbling experience? Because I look back in my experiences and I was like, damn, like I messed up, right? Or damn, I didn't realize this was happening to me. Or damn, I could have done better in this aspect, right? While I'm listening to 50 Cent with my with my weighted vest on, I'm bumping. I'm like, oh damn, that's where
Uh,
it could have been improved.
I mean, when looking back at the entire situationship and like in terms of a humbling experience, I
Mhm,
really can't pinpoint it to one particular area
mhm.
because as a whole, I feel like I did a lot of the right things. But I'm
Right.
also someone that's very strong on if you were to date people now and stuff like that, that you need to make sure all your ducks in a row, that you come
Absolutely.
correct. Come correct to an extent though. Like you
Yeah.
obviously can't have every box checked off, car, house, whatever.
No.
But just making sure your career's in a good area, making sure that your life's in a good area, your mind's in a good area,
Absolutely.
your heart's in a good area. And a
Absolutely.
lot of that was aligned up for me. I know my career thing's in a recent blip, but I'm still
Mhm.
navigating through that
You're
and
doing
having a
great.
lot of conversations with a lot of opportunities being presented right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not really stressed about that.
Yeah.
But I think it still was a humbling experience in the fact that in the last year prior to this relationship, I was feeling really on top. I felt like my
Mm.
career was in a good place. I was crushing it in the consulting world. I felt like in the gym, I was crushing my
Ooh,
workouts. I was running a lot during that
that's
time. I
big.
was also had the
Half
Philly half
marathon.
marathon coming up
Yeah.
in November, this past November. So I crushed that.
Wow. Proud of
Um,
you. That's
I
big.
think I think financially I was doing really well.
Mhm.
I was saving good, investing good, all that stuff. So like a lot of things were checked off for me. And then this whole thing happened. The
Yeah.
layoff came in at the same time, and
Oof.
then I think it was just more of a phase of seeing how I can navigate stress. How can I even further elevate myself through the trials and tribulations, and how I could stay sane or stay so
Yeah.
stoic through it all. And that's been like an eye-opening experience that I've already navigated in the past before, but it's just how much better can we get from there.
Absolutely. And in any situation that you're put in, you could always break, right? So instead of you breaking, you fortified yourself, right? You built a strong foundation, working on your body, um, increasing your physical capabilities. So you ran, you worked out. And in terms of that, you worked on your cardio.
Mhm.
Cardio naturally increases blood flow, right?
Mhm.
Keeping your brain healthy, eating right. So not only keeping your mind sharp, keeping your physique sharp, you're applying those skills to your tool belt. You've been
Mhm.
working so hard outside to increase your resume, your skills that you have, and it's been working out. You've been getting interviews. You've been getting the things that you need. So I'm
Yeah.
very proud of you, bro.
And launching a podcast on the
And
side.
launching a podcast.
Coming from your prior relationships and
Yeah.
and such, like, what are some of, like, maybe a key lesson? You can maybe just pinpoint one
Oof.
lesson that you learned from a prior relationship that you brought into this relationship, and it's really benefited you significantly.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I think coming into the relationship, the biggest lesson I've learned in my past relationships would be staying true to your principles and what you actually like, right? There's always room for compromise, but if you don't find someone, or you don't find someone that agrees with your thought pattern, it won't work,
Mhm.
because it's the act of trying to get convince someone of, hey, this is why this is right, this is why this is wrong, or this is why I am the person I am, right? If they can't have the discernment to really sit there and understand you, or like make the proper um environment for you to express yourself, it'll never work, right? So that's the biggest lesson I've taken. Always be yourself. Talk about what you like and what you can't take. Your non-negotiables have to be talked about,
Mhm.
and I feel like in most relationships, I've compromised that, right?
Mhm.
And but that in progress, not always at the beginning, right? So I start off saying, well, these are my things that I need in a relationship, and then over time, I really feel like I lost the battle of being myself.
Yeah.
So staying true to yourself, making sure the things and principles that you bring into a relationship stay how they are. Because once you start changing for someone, they're happy and you're not. You're
Yeah.
living a lie. You're miserable. You're irritable. You're
Mhm.
taking it out on them. You're resentful,
Mhm.
right? And I've been in that position, and I never want to be in that position with a partner ever again. It doesn't feel good.
Granted, and I feel like when you're in love, though, you do stretch those boundaries naturally.
Yeah,
Naturally, when you're in love with someone, you do wanna just compromise and
right.
make those compromises, but I think what you're trying to get at is that I am willing to compromise on these things, but
Yeah,
it's to a certain extent. Like, there's a
right.
stop loss,
There's a
like, from
stop.
here, it's like, I can't, like,
Yeah,
then you start become, unhappy and resentful and stuff like that, so
absolutely.
that's super
It's
understandable. Is there, like, a particular, like, non-negotiable per se, or is it just more like just you being you, who you are?
so I think respect is a big one for me.
Mhm.
Like, and respect comes in different ways. It's, hey, I don't need to explain to you why you shouldn't keep talking to multiple people. Different people coming together to make a relationship, right? So we don't have the same history. We don't have the same thought patterns all the time, right? So you can have the same principles, but how you link things together can be different, totally.
Mhm.
You can agree on a lot of things, but you don't always operate in the same way.
I think respectful also comes in a way that as a man, you tend to be protective of your lady, your queen, and you wanna
Absolutely.
make sure that when I'm saying something, it's not that I'm trying to control you, which
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have twisted that
Yeah.
too when they say, "Oh, I don't want you to
Voicing.
talk to certain people," or maybe like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't wear this if we're going
Yeah.
to, like, some maybe area that could be a little bit shady, there might be a little bit of trouble." It's
Right.
just being like, hey, respectful to me being a man in a relationship, wanting to
Mhm.
be protective of my girl and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, like, if anything goes down and if, push comes to shove,
Yeah.
who doing the pushing, who doing the shove?
I would ask you the same question. What's something you don't compromise on? What's something that is a non-negotiable for you?
I think for me, always a non-negotiable coming to a relationship has always been this idea of having a growth mindset,
Mm,
meaning that you're willing to grow within the relationship in ways that go beyond even just us as a couple.
right.
As a couple, I agree we should be growing to build each other up to be better and better.
Mm,
But beyond that, too, in terms of your career, your professional life, or in
mm,
terms of how you are with your family in those relationships, or even my friends in those relationships too. Like, I just want someone that's consistently looking to elevate and not just stay complacent in one area.
mm.
And this also comes down to like a mindful aspect too, to be very mindful and want to, you know, understand how their mind works, understand how they process their emotions, understand how they handle grief, heartbreak, trials and tribulations, and how they can kind of sort through their emotions better to get to that next, I guess, stage of growth for them.
Right.
So that's been definitely something that's honestly kind of hard to find even when talking to a lot of potential people as partners or even friends even. I know a lot of our friends or even my friends in general, a lot of them tend to be potentially closed-minded and
Yeah.
I like to just poke the bear a little bit in their life and kind of promote them to think a little bit
Like
differently.
devil's advocate.
Basically devil's advocate, but like actually, yeah, devil's advocate. I can't phrase that
Oh,
any better.
do you ever find yourself in like situations where it's almost like a conflict? Like, do they get into a confrontational place with you, or is it more like a well, I poked the bear too much?
Honestly, there's a fine art to
Right?
it
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
you could definitely
Absolutely.
poke the bear and you could definitely rub people the wrong way, and that's
Yeah.
never the goal with any of it.
Mhm.
But there are times where, you can see people's eyes or brains light up. Like you see it, they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I never did think about
Clicks.
this way, or I
Yeah.
never decided to push myself in that way,
Absolutely.
let me try myself or kind of give me advice on how to do it." And that's kind of the main premises of why I wanted to do this podcast also in
Yeah.
general, because I have so many conversations with so many people to where I play devil's advocate or I challenge the way they think. I think that's a better way of
Yeah,
phrasing
yeah,
devil
yeah.
advocate. I challenge the way they think or do things just to ask questions and just be like, "Hey, like, have you thought about it this way or have you tackled it this way?" And I've seen such positive results come from that. And
Right.
I'm like, why not do that at a bigger stage? Why not bring that to the internet and kind of
Mm.
share this with people? It's like, have you ever thought about certain situations, your love life? Have you thought about the way you handle your trials and tribulations from a different angle?
That's big. I mean, you sound very motivational in terms of how you speak to your friends. And sometimes when your friends go into like a small mind state, you can see that your friends are the bigger star than they are, right?
Mhm.
So when you start to nurture that and you push them, it might feel a bit uncomfortable. It might feel like a big change or a small little change. And some people don't like change. I personally don't like too much change,
Mhm.
right? But living in the uncomfortable is something we always talk about, right? So being uncomfortable and setting boundaries within a relationship, how does that come naturally for you? Because sometimes you might have to step back, right? And be like, well, I don't like that. Or sometimes you might have to look at the relationship and say, how did we get here? And you might realize you didn't set the proper boundaries, or she's setting a boundaries that contradicts your boundary. So how do you set proper boundaries early or within the course of a relationship?
I think it also comes down to partner because I think from what I gather from your conversation, you can correct me if I'm wrong. With
Yeah.
your conversations, it seems like maturity was already there, that you were
Mhm.
able to kind of just talk about boundaries and all that up front, which
Mhm.
is great. If you could do that, God bless you. You're good. You're good. You got a really good thing going.
Yeah.
For me and my relationships, I don't think that always comes up as like a first topic,
Mm,
but how I do it or how I navigate it is I try to just sprinkle it in over time.
absolutely.
With over time, I don't mean with over like 6 months. I mean within the first 3, 4 dates, you start asking. In between dates, or you have conversations, like whether it's on the phone or whatever, to where you could just ask questions and be like, "Hey, like, what are your thoughts around families? Like, do you want the families to integrate together,
Yeah.
as you said, or do you want how do you want to be as parents and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or what do you envision for the growth stuff? Like, what do you
Mhm.
envision your career going right now?
That's
Like,
real.
you might be at a base level, I don't know, like analyst or whatever. Let's say in the business world.
Yeah.
It's like, do you just want to stay an analyst your whole life? Do you have any
Absolutely
aspirations on
not.
the side? Because
Yeah.
that's always something big for me. I'm always
Looking
gonna
for the
have
next thing.
exactly, or just always have something on the side that I
That's
always want to
big.
work and chip on. Because I feel like a 9 to 5 is great, but I want to have a bigger impact into the world.
Yeah.
And it's always been finding what that is for me, and also helping other people find that as well.
Interesting.
But to answer your question originally, you just have to sprinkle it in, and I do think there's a fine art to how you do it, but the best way I could say is don't do it where you come up front and just tell people your
Like,
laundry
no,
list.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, because 'cause I've had that before too.
Oh,
Don't come in
that
yeah, because
sucks.
then it sounds like baggage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it
So
also sounds
don't do
like
that.
you've been waiting to say this whole list, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes it's
yeah.
like a laundry list of like 20 things, and I'm like, and it's like sign the contract at the bottom. I'm like,
Mm,
nah, this sounds something's just giving me a weird vibe that we're
yeah.
just not gonna
It's like,
connect.
what do you like about me? Like,
Yeah,
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 it
yeah, yeah.
almost says you hate me. Yeah.
Yeah, then it comes down to you're just looking for someone that just checks all the boxes,
Hmm.
and the boxes, like, for
Absolutely.
a lot of basic relationships is, like, someone that, you find someone attractive, they make
Mm,
you feel safe, they make you feel cared by them, and
absolutely.
you see them as a kind-hearted person to where you're just like, "Alright," and if they're willing to take my, whatever
Yeah.
on that laundry list that you have, you're good, let's sign the contract, let's get in the relationship, and
Right.
then it comes down to, did you just sign that contract to settle, or did you sign that contract because you do truly align with them?
D- Perfect. Perfect way to put that.
Mhm,
I think for me personally, setting boundaries it has been always hard because I told you I'm someone that gives a lot, right?
mhm,
So, and I know that you're someone that gives a lot as well. So it's always like, huh, is that too much? Is that too little? So I'm always stuck in that place of being contradictory to what I believe,
mhm,
and that mindset in that moment is like, I want to make this person feel so good, right?
mhm,
Obviously, I've learned over time that that's not my personal job. That
mhm,
person is in charge of how their happiness, builds in life. I'm not responsible solely for their happiness. I can add to that, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that took me a long time to realize. But when I got there, I was like, oh, it clicked for me, right? It's like, all right, now I can set my boundaries to make sure that I am taking course of my happiness. I'm managing how happy I am. I'm managing my own emotions. When I'm sad, I'm like, hey, I need some time to myself, right? I can set that boundary. But oftentimes some people might not, and they may be irritable, easily irritable to their partner, right?
Mhm.
And they might say some things that they don't really mean. And you get into that tug of war of like, hey, well, you didn't say anything to me, right? You didn't set that boundary early on. And sometimes you can catch yourself doing certain things because you are not setting the proper boundaries, right? So it's a bit more of reflective work, right? Obviously, I've been through therapy, so I know that what that work looks like, and not everyone needs therapy, so I don't suggest it if you've been through it and you don't like it, because everyone is saying, "Hey, go to therapy," but not
No,
everyone.
no, just go to the gym.
So,
Just go
some
to the gym.
guys,
Wear the best on. Go play
yeah.
50 Cent. You'll get far. You'll get far.
You'll get far. You'll
Uh,
get more confident. Your chest is all pumped
no, no,
out.
no.
Your arms are swole, and then
To
you
go
walking
back to the
around. I don't
therapy
need
point.
therapy. Like,
No, no, no. To go back to the therapy point, I still think therapy is a
yeah,
great tool for
absolutely.
people. It's just whatever balances for you. I know it comes back to what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
You becoming such an effective communicator,
mhm,
it didn't just happen overnight.
at all.
You had to go out and seek that. You had to go seek and do the research, have
Oh God,
conversations with therapists or even people in your circle. I know we've had plenty of conversations and be like, yo, how do I navigate this in my relationship or whatever I'm going through, even
yeah,
maybe in professional? And we start picking each other's brains. But it's hard for people out there. A lot of people don't have that resource for them.
at all.
And I think the best thing I can suggest to people is people who are even watching this, podcasts and is one way that I get it through
Mhm,
like Jay Shetty and other great people in the industry. And
mhm,
then also naturally I'm a reader too, and I know you read books too,
absolutely.
but it's how you interpret it and take in that information. You have to find the form of content or the form or the tone, as some people say, the tone that resonates with
Mm,
you best.
absolutely.
And that's kind of where I've seen my success.
I agree, and it's funny that you say that people take in this information, because I've talked to people that watch the same information or read the same book, and they take it so differently, and I'm a bit drawn back because I don't want to tell them that they're wrong, and I'm right. Like, so it's a bit of, well, everyone has their own interpretation of things, right? So I think that's a good way to move into a subject of looking at potential in a partner, because obviously when you've never met someone that's acting the way that they're acting and you're so infatuated by them and you're like, whoa, this person's different. How do you navigate that and not fall in love with that potential of like, oh, this person checks all the boxes, and they're perfect for me, right? So how do you move and not fall in love with patterns? Like, oh, I've never done this, I've never had this done for me, and this person's moving like beautifully, and you get caught up in like, wow, this person's great. How do you not get caught up in potential and you actually see through that, that cloud, or
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, I think the cliche saying that I always say is, the mouth lies, but the body moves. So it also comes back to the same saying of,
mhm,
with the patterns, you start noticing the
absolutely.
patterns, you start noticing the trends. But beyond that too, I always say that you have to envision it essentially of two people coming together.
Mhm.
You're trying to build this home together.
Ooh, good one.
So
I like that.
essentially, we all come from home. We were single for however long before coming to this relationship, you
Mhm.
know? So we already have that home established for us. And as
Absolutely.
a guy and a girl, a lady has her home too.
Mm,
They come from whatever. They might have a perfect basement, a nice floorings and everything like that. The guy's house might have a nice kitchen and or
mhm.
whatever. But as you guys come together now and formulate that relationship, now you start taking all those building blocks and putting it all together. And you guys still might have things that within the house that are messed up. You guys might still have
Absolutely.
a busted attic and a roof leaking.
Yeah.
So as you guys come together, it's not about potential now. Now we're taking the building blocks and we're putting it together and
Mm,
we're really trying to build something. And then as you guys navigate through life, you will now start to see the potential has to be actions now. Like that roof is leaking.
yeah,
We got to figure out how we're going to navigate it.
that's real. And so do you call a repairman? Like, do you guys go to therapy? You guys talk through with friends? Like, what do you do in those moments in terms of like building a proper home? Because the bricks might be different, right? So
Mhm.
how do you put those together?
I think when it comes to navigating your conflicts or your uh, the bricks not aligning in a
Mhm.
relationship, you can navigate through certain ways. Like I've never personally done couples therapy. I know
Yeah,
that people have, and couples therapy is
I've done
definitely
it.
an option. Yeah, so couple therapy is definitely an option.
Mm,
That's definitely one way. But in general, I think you have to have that growth mindset that I originally was harping on as my non-negotiable
absolutely.
because you have to want to look at things from a different perspective and put
Mm,
yourself in their shoes and understand. hey, they don't like this. Why don't they like this? And really understand the root cause. Because a lot of relationships that I've seen, a lot of people
Mm,
generally just like to solve the surface level
mm,
of what the issue is.
it's
The
like
day they then go back to their normal tendencies of
yeah,
being, comfortable in the relationship and
yeah,
not really, still actually making a change. So it's like understanding what your root value is and your root cause
mm.
to why you got in the first place. Are you willing to change your root cause? If not, explain why and be able to be an effective communicator in a relationship.
And I think that's a really good point. Something you mentioned was if someone's not doing the right thing that you want on your list, right? So that concept we mentioned earlier, like we thought about was like building a Barbie or building a Ken, right? Like people want these superficial things, and sometimes they may skip over values, right? And I mentioned earlier that values was something that me and my girl um, brought into the relationship very early on. So in the aspect of building a Barbie and a Ken, and like there's this thing going around like it's the it girl season, and then there's like all sassy men, going around, and it's like those are coming from being someone that has a checklist, right? Having everything perfect, right? And everything has to look pristine. Right. So how do you navigate a space like that, and how can you, avoid those things? And ultimately it could corrupt your relationship, right? How do you think effectively in a space like that? And how do you build genuine relationships? A lot of people are skipping that part and just looking at what man or what woman fits in the image, right? They want that picture perfect person.
Mhm.
But how do you overlook that and get to a place where um, the picture is perfect for both of you guys? Or it's not even not all pictures have to be perfect. Right? You don't need to have everything perfect.
Yeah.
And it could just be one of those like Polaroids that you guys, but it's a memory that you guys would share forever, right? And you have a photo album rather than an Instagram post,
Mhm.
you know?
So is the question of how do you navigate to get to a picture perfect relationship, or how do you basically manage or go on.
Yeah, so how do you basically move from something that has to be picture perfect
Mhm.
and superficial to that old school kind of love where it's so deep, it's so deep,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
R&B everywhere, like
Yeah.
you watch a R&B music video and it's like sensual touching, and you're spending time, it's a picnic, she's feeding him, he's
Yeah.
feeding her, and it's they go home to like the grandmother's house, and there's a photo book, they're looking at baby pictures, and then you guys make a scrapbook of your own. Like, I'm not saying it should be R&B love, but it should be well, in my view, I think that it should be more of a paced love, or an intentional love, rather than a superficial one where it's all about image and fitting that Barbie or Ken, like stereotype.
Yeah. I think you hammered that point right there. It's comes down to what we said originally. Like when it comes to dating, is to just be intentional.
Yeah,
You got to go in that relationship wanting to learn them, and they have to
absolutely.
come into that relationship wanting to learn about you and
Mhm.
what you bring to a table and what you're going through and what are your demons and what are
Right.
your
And can they handle that?
and can they handle that
Yeah.
too. I'm not saying
Mm.
go into a relationship with baggage and everything and just be ready to be like, all right, here's my baggage. Let's open it up. Let's unpack. Let's really work through
Yeah,
it. But it's
I
like
get that.
let's let's really,
Yeah,
let's see what it is. Let's lay it on the table. And you do that early on to the relationship. Within the first 3 dates, you start having those conversations because,
absolutely.
ain't nobody really care about your favorite color. No offense, broski.
Yeah.
They do, but like to an
Yeah, I
extent.
get that.
But it's like,
It's
let's
like,
get into the meaningful
yeah,
conversations.
I only have one favorite color. Like, after that, what are we gonna talk about?
And we both have the same favorite colors. So we're both
And now
on
what?
green. Yeah. So
Like, that's crazy. We're gonna share the house is gonna be that color. Like, what are you talking about now?
yeah. So it's just like
Yeah,
really laying out those things
mm,
up front to
absolutely.
get to that old school love. Is just being intentional with your partner. I think our generation now and what
Mm,
we're going through now in current media times is that men are starting to be like, hey, you can be vulnerable with your partner. You can
absolutely.
do this. Now, the trick with that is though we are seeing that trend. I just don't think men know how to communicate it effectively, and
Oh,
that's the whole thing in
that yeah,
general
yeah.
that people are
Like,
learning to navigate.
it's it's funny you say that is because I had to a moment of transparency is that I wasn't really in tune with my feelings, and I didn't know how I felt a lot of the times. So I attributed that to anger or frustration a lot of the times, right? So being a bit more stoic, I've always been a bit more calm. So I've never even shown that I was angry. I've never even shown that I was upset because I'm always just chill,
Mhm.
right? But going through therapy, I was able to find those words. Oh, like I'm not upset. I'm actually disappointed at this person, right? Or I'm not upset. I'm actually sad, right? So just finding the vocabulary, and there's this thing called an emotional wheel, right? And then it has different sections where it talks about emotions, right? And there's different words leading up to different emotions, right? So if you start in the middle and you see that you're sad, then it'll go to disappointed. And then
Mhm.
eventually it'll go to like, well, let's say frustrated, or like there's different connections that you can make depending on which word. So it's like a tree
Mhm.
of different words. So I agree. Like some people don't have the language, and it can send into um, not really a gender thing. It's just overall because I've found some people that on both sides that don't know how to communicate or talk about their feelings at
Yeah.
all, and it's just like, bro, you're mad,
Yeah.
right? And you don't know how to express that, and it's fine. And I'll step away if they know how to, navigate through that. And we deal with clients, right?
Mhm.
Oftentimes when we both do somewhat of consulting,
Mhm.
and we can see that sometimes you deliver something that may make the client mad, or it wasn't a desirable result of whatever you're doing, and they may come off and like pissed off or like super confrontational, and you have to navigate that, right? So but you never forget. You're like, all right, this is what pushes their button. This
Mhm.
is what I can't touch on.
Mhm.
Maybe I can teach them how to, resolve that a little better. Hey, I'm not really trying to frustrate you,
Mhm.
but this is what it is, right? And
Mhm.
some people aren't cool with realities that aren't for them.
I think it also comes down to that back to that point of intentional love and stuff like that. I think
Absolutely.
also in general, like we've both find ourselves as very empathetic people,
Hmm.
meaning that we could really put ourselves out of our
Mm,
situation into their shoes and
right.
understand why they're feeling some type of way.
Right.
And being empathetic in a relationship really allows you to just understand. And in relationships, I don't mean even romantic. I mean friendships too. To
Right.
understand from their perspective, why did this tick them off? Obviously, at all times, we really don't know. Some people are just some crazy people too. Like we gotta just take it as that. Some people
Yeah.
got anger management issues.
Absolutely.
But in terms of things that annoy them from a standpoint of, whether in a relationship or whether in friendship, it's just kinda pinpointing. It's like, "Okay, why did
Mm,
they not like this way that I said it?" Maybe there's something that upsetted her, and it could be something so small, and just understanding what that is
yeah.
and making that correction, but beyond the surface level of just making that correction, make sure it's, like, deeply rooted to be the correction, and a correction that you tolerate too. Because let's
Right.
go back to your non-negotiables. You can't
And your
change
boundaries, right?
and your boundaries. You
Mm,
can't change who you are. Obviously, through love, you will
absolutely.
stretch it, but there comes a point
Just-
where
You have to stay true to who you are at the core, right? Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
It'll disrupt the relationship. No, that's a really good point, and leading to the next question of like similar interests, right? So what happens if you meet someone? Obviously, you may just cut it off early, but you meet someone and you realize that they're a good person. You like to spend your time with them, but individually, you guys have no, maybe, or a little to no interest outside of, liking them, right? They could be a really good person. You like how they speak, they're respectful, but, she likes to watch, you know, what is it? Like
Anime or whatever,
anime
or like
or like,
the Love Island and
reality
stuff.
TV, like
Yeah,
Love Island and things like that. And you're just, more, I like to watch finance videos, and
yeah,
then you guys have no similar hobbies. She's not athletic. You're athletic. She might be athletic. You're not, so
yeah,
how do you
yeah.
navigate through a space like that?
I think going into that too with interest and stuff, I feel like you do have certain non-negotiables that you go
Mhm.
into that as well. Me personally, and I can only speak for myself, I
Yeah.
actually like when my partner is different than me because
Ooh,
I know that
really?
I'm very yeah, I'm very wired, I'm very driven. I'm a
Mm.
madman at sometimes.
Matt,
The mad
David
scientist
Goggins.
personality
Yeah.
definitely fits who I am at
Yeah.
times. But in general, for
Facts.
me, like in terms of like having different interests is cool. Like for an example, like I like mindfulness, I like
Mm.
personal development growth, I like
Absolutely.
finance, I like fitness and all that.
Yeah.
The thing with me and a partner, like, of course, I would love that she's into fitness, but I would never force her to be into it, like to the extent of where she's got to run a
Okay.
half marathon with me or anything of that
Yeah, yeah,
nature.
yeah.
But there has to be maybe some level of interest into it because it's something that's a non-negotiable for me
Right.
in my life.
Like she could be on the sidelines just clapping for you and
Exactly,
like
like
supporting you. Right,
exactly,
right,
like
right.
you could you that's what I'm saying, like, they don't have to come out here and run and
Yeah.
do the things that I do and wear the G Unit vest, like, they don't gotta do all that, they don't
Yeah,
gotta do
if
all
you
that.
run a half marathon with the weighted jet, you got
Yeah,
it.
or maybe 2024 goals,
You got
2025 goals.
you got it. Like
But then beyond that too, like, having different interests is
yeah.
what kinda makes you guys attract to each other
Mhm.
because now so for me in a relationship, I actually do enjoy when they're in different interests because it pulls me out from my always work
Comfort
mindset,
zone, right.
comfort zone and work mindset to be like, this is I'm using the relationship also to unplug and
Mhm.
be like, "Okay, what are you into?" And there's things that, people have showed me that I'm just not into, but I do like I'm very open-minded that I'll give it a try and I'll, look into it. Like,
Right.
I'm not a big TV show person, you know this. I don't watch
Yeah,
TV
yeah,
shows
yeah.
and movies. I'm, like, terrible with that. But obviously, a lot of people are into it, so I'll still try for the sake of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
trying. And there's some good ones out there. Like I've watched recent Netflix documentaries or something with a partner. Like I'm open to it. It's not like I'm shut down from it completely.
You know what's recent that I didn't know I would like? The Squid Game reality show.
Oh, really?
Because you watch Squid Games, right?
No,
You have
no,
to.
I haven't watched
So
anything.
so watch Squid Games
Yeah,
and watch the reality TV show
yeah.
because it's the same thing, but it'll be better if you watch this
Mhm,
actual one first, because then it'll kind of spoil it for you
mhm,
if you watch the reality TV first. But that and the trust, like
mhm.
my girl has me watching the trust. You know what the trust is? So basically, they have a bunch of people on an island.
Uh-huh.
There's this sack of money. There's this goal, right? So it's about like 25,000. No, sorry, not 25,000. 250,000, right?
Oh,
And
quite a
there's
mil.
maybe like 10 people on the island, or maybe more than that. But there are opportunities to vote people off,
Oh,
and you don't have to vote anyone off.
okay.
But there's going to be cases where they'll pull you in. So the game show host will pull you in and
Mhm,
say, "Hey, do you want to take this amount of money out of the target goal? So 250,000,
mhm,
right? To blah blah blah." There might be like a certain stipulation,
mhm,
right? So, hey, do you want to take 30,000 out of the 250 for your benefit?
mhm.
Right. And there's moments like that, and it gets spicy. It's super drama filled. I didn't think I would like it, but it gets real. Same thing with Squid Games, the reality show. So
Mhm.
if you ever go on a binge, watch those two
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
and to also ask you the question too about, with your partner and interests and such, like,
Mhm.
do you prefer your partner has like the similar interest to you, or do you prefer that they're different, or how do
Mm.
you
So how do I not? That's a really good question, because sometimes I'm very curious. I'm like, all right, like teach me new things, right? I always want a partner that can teach me something,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
and
huge.
vice versa, right? Like it's really cool when you can teach someone what you like and they enjoy it, right? It feels so good. But I also understand that people are different. So in my relationships, I want someone that's similar to me. I'm not
Mhm,
gonna lie. But
mhm,
I also want them to have their own hobbies and their life outside of me. I want them to be able to be like, well, I'm gonna go see my friend, right?
mhm,
I'm gonna go hang out with friends.
mhm.
I'm gonna go do this experience. I'm a dancer, so I'm gonna go dance, right?
Yeah.
I used to play softball, so I'm gonna go play softball with my friends, right?
Mhm,
So that's number one for me. And I'm always open, similar to you, I'm always open to trying new experiences. So when she showed me these reality TV shows, I'm not really into reality TV, but I was sitting there with her, like, I was into it more than she was. I'm
Yeah.
sitting there in bed, like, ooh,
Oh,
like, what's she gonna do? And what he's,
yeah.
like, so it was very different. So I've always loved that aspect of diving into my partner's
Interest
hobbies
as well,
or
yeah.
interest. Yeah.
No, I think that does make a bit I think that was maybe a key point that I missed
Mhm.
as well. I think it's having your partner have their own interests and that
Mhm.
they can be independent as well and
Right.
kinda have that their own life as well and their own interests and hobbies and journey that they're pursuing, and
Absolutely.
as a partner, all I wanna do is support
And
them in
support that. Right.
whatever way I can. If they're doing dance, like, okay, cool, like,
Yeah.
making sure they're good, making sure they
Maybe
got
I'll try a little cha cha.
I don't know if I'll try a
I'll
dance.
try
I
some
never said
cha
all
cha
that.
or
I'll
something.
support them. I'll be out there, maybe my wedding day I'll dance,
Yeah,
but until
like
then, I'm gonna keep if you see me at the club, I do the little two-hand, like, "Hey, you've seen me at the club multiple times, you know my moves."
No, I mean, like, as long as you're there trying, I think she'll support that, and she doesn't, you might need someone else. But,
Yeah.
so these things, supporting your partner are big, and I feel that me personally, intimacy is important, right? There's different ways to be intimate, right? If it's waking up, sharing a cup of tea, right?
Mhm,
That's very intimate to me. Or right before you go to bed, check in and have a little talk,
mhm,
right? But sometimes, when you're dating someone and things certain things move in a certain way, and you get intimate in the way that I'm talking about, you move and have sex, right? Is there maybe a timeline for you, or in general, maybe not a timeline, but a time you should know, hey, it's time to get intimate in that way, have sex with that person? Is there a time when it's too early? um it could happen on the first date. How do you feel about that? Smashing on the first date, is that a little bit too much? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Does it make you look at someone different? Like,
I
give me the
mean
guide.
I think being intimate too early, let's just blanket it as a whole instead of just
Yeah,
smashing
yeah, yeah,
only,
yeah. I
because that's
mean,
kinda crazy, but, being intimate too early, it has its pros and cons.
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, everyone's gonna have their own opinion on it. It's just particular to always the question that's always asked about, like,
Mm,
what were your thoughts about smashing on the first date and stuff like that.
yeah.
You know, for me personally, I feel like it's better to not be intimate early. I feel
Absolutely.
like it shows it shows that you value that person
Mm,
more
okay,
by being like, I value intimacy on like a pedestal,
okay,
and to just be like, we'll get there when we get there.
right.
And I feel like in a lot of relationships I've navigated that to be like, we'll get there when we get
When we
there.
get there,
I
okay.
would rather I'd rather not ruin a good thing going right now by
Mm.
being intimate early and losing the sacred value it has at the end of the day.
And that's real. I'm on the same vibe with you on that. Honestly, I think for me, obviously moving through my relationship, it we wanted to get there, right? But I felt that intimacy ruins things if it's too early.
The innocence of the relationship is good.
Absolutely. It's not innocent anymore. It's when are we gonna get the chance to do it again?
Yeah.
Right. And
And not saying it's easy either to not sorry to cut you off, to
no, do you
not,
think?
not be intimate because I know we both like physical touch. So
Whoa.
so
Nah, yeah, nah, nah,
pause,
no.
but we both like our physical touch, so
Mhm.
I know that, it gets there, and if you feel comfortable, it gets there, you know?
Yeah,
Like, that's what I'm saying, like, smashing on the first date, I if it gets there, it gets there
yeah,
essentially, but, I feel like holding back and just being more valuing it more and giving it more time
yeah,
and, it just doesn't lose that innocence, that it delivers.
absolutely.
But no, I mean, guys, as we wrap up our first episode, I kind of want to just tease what's coming next for this podcast as a whole. I know Valentine's Day is coming
It
up.
is.
I know we talked
You
about, and
ready?
we're putting together.
Take
So,
yourself out,
take myself
Yeah, do
out.
something.
Who knows, man? I might book a trip or something. Who
You
knows?
never know.
But in terms of what's coming, we actually do plan to do a Valentine's Day episode. We want to do some like maybe fun first date questions or
Yeah,
Valentine's Day themed questions, like but more intimate, like more promoting questions that you guys
absolutely.
can use. Some gentleman riz tips.
You know?
Yeah. And then also, a question for you is like, what is like a dream guest you plan to have on the show? I mean, this is only episode one. We don't know the sky's the limit,
Ooh,
but you ever thought about like what your dream guest would be for the show?
a dream guest on this podcast is
Yeah.
to learn about their mindset.
It could be anyone
Um,
though.
yeah,
Alive.
alive.
We're not picking dead people. Alive.
I
Everyone
mean,
go pick Kobe in here.
yeah, yeah. Imagine Kobe come,
Yeah.
but for me, it definitely has to be Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne
Like
Wade?
Dwayne Wade,
Oh.
because I think a lot of people sleep on Dwayne Wade's mindset.
Yeah.
It's going through his whole college career as a basketball player. Like he basically coached his own team.
Yeah.
You know that. Like he's not only a player, but he's a coach for everyone around
Mhm.
him. Like everyone, almost similar to Kobe, like everyone in the stadium loved
Mhm.
Kobe.
Mhm.
Same thing with Dwayne Wade. He moves the same way, same mindset. He nurtures everyone, even his opponents,
Mhm.
right? And he doesn't see you as anyone that's beneath him. He's always putting people up. Also, his fashion game now
Yeah.
is crazy. Back then, when he used to implement or emulate MJ
Yeah.
with the big hoop earring,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I didn't really like that. And he
Yeah.
had the Nelly, Band-Aid
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
those
yeah.
things. But
Nah.
honestly, I really want people to know his mindset and dive into that more because it's
Mhm.
more of he's an NBA player, he's an athlete. But when you start to understand the business mindset behind him, he has so many ventures that no one knows about. He
Mhm.
sells his own wine. He has a sneaker
Oh, yeah.
big partnership. He has so many other ventures that are going through, and no one is really talking about it. How business savvy he is. He owns part stake of the Utah Jazz. Like,
Mhm.
there's so many things in the background no one will talk about, and I really want
Yeah.
him to get a stage where he can talk through those things a bit more because when he has interviews, it's more of the drama aspect. Like,
I mean, unpacking the mindset of an athlete is always something insane. It's always
absolutely.
like anytime I see an athlete hop on a podcast, like
Mhm.
Kobe hopped on Lewis Hamilton's show, and then
Yeah,
also on Jay Shetty's podcast.
yeah,
That was like an episode I ran to because I love Kobe and
yeah,
just learning his mindset more and how he applies in his terms of love and everything like that. It's definitely something cool.
absolutely. And I had a question for you. What's one place that you would pod? Like, where's your favorite? If you could pod anywhere,
Like record a podcast.
record a podcast. So if you
Oh,
could record it on a beach, if you could record on the top of like the Empire State Building, or you go to
oh.
Dubai and like it's under the water, like they have the underwater hotel.
Mhm.
Like if you could do it under, like where would your dream place to be to podcast? Or maybe it could be like more one or two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Honestly, all my intrusive thoughts are really.
Whoa.
I think in general, like I've always said, like, so I'm Indian, and I never like traveled parts of
Oh,
India, so I think doing it out there would
that'd
be
be
like,
cool.
yeah, going back to my roots
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
doing a
yeah, yeah.
podcast out there. I
That'd
think
be
that'd be really
cool.
cool, and then also even connect with the content creator out there, and maybe do
Right.
an interview with one of them just to understand how their
Some
perspective
behind the
of life.
scenes movement too. That'd be cool.
Exactly, and seeing how their perspective of life is so different from like how they grew up to
Right.
versus how I grew up in the U.S.
Mhm.
So I feel like something like
Wow.
that could be really cool.
That'll be dope.
All
All
right.
right, we're going to India.
Yeah, we're going to
We're going
India.
to India, you
Yeah,
know?
we'll check out Ghana after.
Ghana's next.
Yeah. And then the last thing is quote of the day is what I'm gonna
Mm,
call it, or you could use it theme of the day, whatever it is, something just to leave you guys off with. I know one that I've been using for this week
mhm,
since I've been having a lot of conversations with people in and out of the gym. People know I'm into fitness. A lot
right,
of my social media, if you open up Instagram, it's just fitness content for the most
right.
part on my stories. Um, something that people always ask me is like, how do you do it, Anoop? How do you show up every day in that gym?
Ooh,
How do you just get it done even if you're going through all this trials and tribulations, whether career stuff in a bad place, relationships and bad stuff? How do you still show up every single day?
ooh,
And for me, what I've learned is just kind of removing that negotiation room out of your mind. So essentially, don't even give it a thought. Whatever you're trying to do, whether it's the gym, whether it's a business adventure, whatever it is. I feel
right.
like we'll primarily focus on the gym right now. I feel like the gym shouldn't be in that negotiation room because it shouldn't be a thought that you should be running away from or trying to argue with, because at the end of the day it
Mhm,
benefits you so much in terms of a mindset perspective, in terms of your physical appearance, in
mhm,
terms of just your emotional well-being. You meet
absolutely.
people, have good conversations. Physically you get bigger and stronger. Emotionally you got that quiet and peace that we talked about. Like
Right.
it is a form of therapy for some people. So I feel like there's so many more important things that need to
Mm,
go there that you need to negotiate for maybe in your mind, but this thing of the concept of the gym, it just doesn't need to be there. So if you learn to remove things off your negotiation table and just execute,
yeah.
your trajectory will go way better.
No, that that's big, and I mean, I've seen you be a warrior all last year and the year before. So, and you've always been a warrior. You've always been, gym mindset and physique mindset. So I love seeing you, work. So keep working.
Of
I see you.
course. Appreciate it.
My quote of the day is I forgive myself for all the mistakes I've made. Right. So thinking in that and being more, reinventive of yourself and not thinking, oh, I should have made this move or I should have done this differently. Everything you've done so far has led you to the place you're at. And if you're in a bad place, you're still in a bad place, think about all the worst places you could have done or been in. So if you drop from somewhere that was, highly acclaimed and somewhere you've always wanted to be, and now you're at rock bottom, you always want to think, well, if I've gotten to that point, I can go higher, right? So always reinventing and not taking it to heart and realizing that life has ups and downs and everything you do in that moment counts. So for going back to you and your mindset after, certain things happen in your life and you were at potentially a low point, right? What you did was reinforce yourself. You got your physical right. You got your mind right. You started making the right connections. So you forgave yourself for all those things that led to that moment of being at a low point, and you took yourself out of that, right, and embraced where you were. And now look at all that's happening to you. You're attracting so much positivity, so much growth that it's almost like compounding interest, right? And it's moving so exponentially fast that your success is guaranteed. So always forgive yourself for all the things and mistakes that happened to you in your past, and it should never be, personal because something always is coming for you. Something great is always in your future.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's a really good quote to learning how to forgive yourself. I think it's
yeah,
easier said than done for sure,
absolutely.
and I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
I've truly mastered the art
absolutely.
of forgiving myself or giving myself that grace.
Hmm.
It's definitely something I've been working through, and that
Hmm.
was the recent book I read with Roxy Nafusi on manifestation and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It's kind of like how you start to remove those thoughts and just really start to
yeah,
think positively and frame it in a way that like if this is the life you envision for yourself, envision it in your head and
yeah,
things will start to align. So same way you
absolutely.
said, like yes, you're gonna go through downtimes,
You're gonna go through downtimes.
but it's how do you come out from those downtimes to
Yeah,
just really get to that high, and then stay grounded during those low times and stay grounded when you're at those highs as well.
absolutely.
Uh,
Pure
it's
stock.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. And with that, we're wrapping up episode number 1 of the
Hmm.
Modern Stoic podcast.
You
I
know,
know there's a lot to come from us. Hope
absolutely,
you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys, subscribe, stay tuned for the journey. I know we got a lot cooking up. This is just
absolutely.
only episode 1,
One baby.
and we got a lot more to go.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, I'm your host, Anoop. My boy, Kofi. Peace.
Peace.
All right.
All right.
Not bad.
Yeah. Good deal.
Do you know how long that was? By any chance?